Welcome to Pharmaste NAPLEX Preparation Coach. Before we dive into today's material, let's just take a quick second. Take a slow, deep breath in and gently breathe out. Now, I want you to picture yourself right at the pharmacy counter. You've got a patient in front of you, they're nervous, they're sick, and they're just trying to figure out how to take this new antibiotic safely. You see, today, we aren't just memorizing random facts. We're actually learning how to turn all that dense drug knowledge into crystal clear counseling that genuinely protects our patients. So today, we'll be reviewing some of the absolute highest yield antibiotic counseling points, stuff that shows up all the time on the NAPLEX and honestly, every single day in real pharmacy practice. Oh, and hey, real quick, if you find this lesson helpful, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Getting this out there really might help another student learn how to counsel their patients with confidence. All right, let's jump right into these preceptor rounds. Here's our agenda for today. We're hitting universal antibiotic rules, then quinolones and macrolides, tetracyclines and sulfamethoxazole, metronidazole and nitrofurantoin, and finally wrapping up with mupirocin nasal ointment.
Section 1. Universal antibiotic rules, what every patient needs to know.
We've got to start with the absolute baseline. No matter what antibiotic is in that bag, these are your core counseling points. First up, always remind them to finish the entire course. Even if they wake up on day 3 feeling like $1,000,000, right? Why? Because we are treating bacteria, not viruses. If they stop early, they literally leave the strongest, most resilient bacteria behind to breed resistance. We definitely don't want that. Next, check storage. Does this liquid need the fridge to stay stable, or is room temp fine? And absolutely always tell them to shake suspensions well, so the drug doesn't just settle at the bottom. Also, keep an eye out for PKU warnings. Some chewables or liquids have phenylalanine, which is a major red flag for patients who can't metabolize it. And finally, just give them a heads up about the usual suspects. Watch out for a rash, some nausea, or a bit of diarrhea.
Now, speaking of diarrhea, this right here is super interesting. As pharmacists, we have to translate clinical jargon into plain English. You can't just look at a patient and say, hey, watch out for Clostridioides difficile. I mean, they'd look at you like you have 2 heads. Instead, you say, listen, if you get severe abdominal pain, persistent cramps, or any watery or bloody stool, stop taking this and call your doctor immediately. That right there is the exact actionable language the NAPLEX wants to see, because catching C. diff early, it can literally prevent life-threatening colitis.
And when you're handing a suspension over to, say, a super stressed out parent, you need to use this precise script. Always use the provided oral syringe to measure this liquid, never a household kitchen spoon. Why? Well, kitchen spoons are wildly inconsistent. One might be 2 mils, another might be 10. By insisting on the oral syringe, you're locking in safety and accuracy and honestly saving everyone a lot of stress.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, quinolones and macrolides high-yield warnings.
So picture this scenario at the counter. It's a total classic NAPLEX active recall setup for a black box warning. You've got a 65-year-old patient picking up levofloxacin, and she asks, hey, why did my doctor warn me about my joints? Think about it. How do you explain this serious risk without completely freaking her out, but still making sure she gets the message?
Well, to answer that, let's look at the massive side effect profile of quinolones. This is exactly why we try to avoid them in vulnerable folks like pregnant women, nursing moms, and kids. Just look at the systems it hits. You've got CNS effects like seizures or neuropathy, endocrine swings like random hypo or hyperglycemia, cardiovascular risks, specifically QT prolongation, which can lead to arrhythmias, dermatological issues like massive photosensitivity, we're talking severe sunburns, and of course the musculoskeletal dangers. Plus, you've got to watch for binding interactions. Quinolones bind to polyvalent cations. So if your patient takes this with antacids, iron, or calcium supplements, the antibiotic basically gets trapped in the gut, completely blocks absorption, and the therapy just flat out fails. No way around it. So going back to our patient, here's the crucial phrase you need to give her. If you feel a sudden pop, pain, or swelling in the back of your ankle or shoulder, stop taking this and call your doctor immediately. Notice what we did there. We gave her specific physical landmarks, the ankle, the shoulder. Now she knows exactly what a musculoskeletal warning sign actually feels like in real life. Getting ahead of that can prevent a literal long-term disability.
All right, let's pivot to macrolides, like the azithromycin Z-Pack. You got to walk your patient through this exact sequence. On day 1, take 2 tablets together. On days 2 through 5, take 1 tablet daily. Sounds super simple to us, right? But patients absolutely get this mixed up. They might spread that day 1 dose out or accidentally take 2 pills every single day. So make it crystal clear. And while you're explaining this, just keep in the back of your mind those classic macrolide risks, GI upset, and again, QT prolongation, just in case they have a cardiac history.
Moving right along to Section 3, tetracyclines and sulfamethoxazole. Sun, supplements, and safety.
Let's see how these build on the warnings we just talked about. This breakdown is great because it shows how both classes share some strict rules, like hardcore sun protection and avoiding them during pregnancy, but they differ in a few key ways. For the shared risks, both cause intense photosensitivity. A normal walk in the sun could literally result in blistering burns, so sunscreen is a must. Both are generally a no-go for pregnancy and breastfeeding. But here's the difference. Tetracyclines are specifically avoided in kids under 8. Why? Because it can permanently discolor their teeth and mess with skeletal bone growth. On the flip side, sulfamethoxazole has a massive, strict contraindication for anyone with a sulfa allergy.
Okay, let's do another quick clinical scenario. Your 22-year-old patient comes in to pick up some oral doxycycline for their acne. What behavioral instruction do they desperately need right there at the counter? Because if they take this wrong, it can lead to some brutal esophageal irritation.
Here is exactly what you tell them. Take this with a full glass of water and remain upright for at least 30 minutes after your dose. You've got to use gravity to protect their throat. If they take it and immediately lay down to go to sleep, that highly acidic pill can get lodged in the esophagus and literally cause an ulcer. Ouch. Also, perfect time to remind them about binding interactions. Just like the quinolones, they shouldn't wash this down with a glass of milk or take it with their daily multivitamin.
Now for sulfamethoxazole, trimethoprim, you really need to drill these core points into your brain. Number 1, verify they don't have a sulfa allergy before you even touch that stock bottle. A severe reaction here can lead to Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is no joke. Number 2, avoid in pregnancy and breastfeeding. Number 3, watch for that sun sensitivity. But number 4, and this is huge, remind them to take it with a full glass of water. Why? To flush out the kidneys and prevent crystalluria, basically preventing severe crystal formation in their urine. Hydration is absolutely key here for protecting their renal function.
All right, Section 4, Metronidazole and Nitrofurantoin, crucial patient instructions.
These two are highly testable, and they come with some pretty surprising patient instructions. Let's compare them. They both cause nausea, sure, but the lifestyle adjustments, totally different. Metronidazole can give this nasty metallic taste in the mouth, and it comes with a strict, absolute zero-tolerance rule for alcohol. Nitrofurantoin, on the other hand, should actually be taken with food to help with that nausea and boost absorption, but it has a very visually alarming side effect if you don't warn them first.
For metronidazole, you have to be super firm. Tell them, do not consume any alcohol products while taking this, and wait at least 3 full days after your last dose before having any. If they mix this with alcohol, they will get a severe disulfiram-like reaction. Basically, the drug stops the body from breaking down alcohol, leading to a toxic buildup of acetaldehyde. We are talking intense vomiting, flushing, and horrible cramps. And don't forget to mention that alcohol products includes things like mouthwash or NyQuil, not just a glass of wine.
Now, with nitrofurantoin, your job is playing the role of the reassuring pharmacist. You tell them, hey, this medication might turn your urine brown, but do not panic. This is a completely harmless side effect. By telling them this up front, you are literally saving them a terrifying, completely unnecessary trip to the ER because they thought their kidneys were bleeding. It's just a benign quirk of the drug.
And finally, Section 5, mupirocin nasal ointment, proper topical administration. Administration technique is huge on the NAPLEX, so let's walk through this one. You need to explain these exact steps at the counter. First, place half the ointment from the little tube into one nostril and the other half into the second nostril. Then, have them pinch their nostrils together and let go repeatedly for about a minute. This little massaging action does a great job spreading the medication all throughout the nasal cavity to clear out the colonization. And finally, wash those hands thoroughly. We don't want to be spreading bacteria around.
And always, always set expectations for localized side effects. With mupirocin, let them know it might cause some temporary burning or itching inside the nose. If they know that stinging is completely normal, they're way more likely to just tolerate it and finish the treatment. And that's exactly what we want because finishing the therapy effectively eliminates the risk of transmitting MRSA. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question. As a future pharmacist, how will you translate complex drug warnings into plain language actions that actually keep your patients safe? Remember, passing the NAPLEX is not just about memorizing some tables in a book. It's about translating all that incredible knowledge into confident, life-saving communication. Every time you study a new antibiotic, just ask yourself, how would I explain this to a real person standing right in front of me? Keep studying hard, keep practicing those patient-friendly scripts, and I'll see you in the next review session.